Hey guys, I'm going to talk about the case today, Time Inc. versus Hill. It happened in 1967. It was a U.S. Supreme Court mainly dealing with the privacy law and the First Amendment. It was a pretty interesting case to learn about, and I thought it was well worth learning. It started off with a guy named James Hill, his wife, and 5 kids. They lived in White Marsh Township, PA, and they were held hostage in their own house by 3 escaped convicts. They were released 19 hours later. They got lots of media attention, but Mrs. Hill, she wasn't too fond of it, so they picked up and moved to Connecticut, but that wasn't the end of their problems. A guy named Joseph Hayes, he went on to write a best-selling novel based on the Hill family's incidents. It was called The Desperate Hours. The novel ended up getting turned into a Broadway play, but it didn't represent the Hill family properly, and they had things in there that didn't happen. The scenario was changed from the Hills' actual experiences to a fictional portrayal of a family victimized by threats of sexual abuse and other violent acts. Life magazine ended up writing an article about the debut of the play, and the Hill family was not too fond of it. So James Hill decided to file a lawsuit against them for violating the privacy law in the state by conflating the Hill family with fictional events, which actually did not occur. Time Inc. was not happy with the decision because he ended up winning the lawsuit and he was granted $30,000. But Time Inc. They weren't happy with it, so they appealed it. They had a couple arguments going for them. Their opening argument was that the privacy law in New York was unconstitutional. And then their second argument was that they argued that the prior ruling in the case was inappropriate because the jury was allowed to determine liability of life based on the inaccuracy of the article, while neglecting to take into account whether or not the act by the magazine was reckless or willful. They pretty much feel that the libel law was thrown out and forgotten about. They felt that they should have the protection that the fellow who comes in to sue him, which was Hill, they must prove falsity and knowledge of falsity or recklessness, because the article was deemed informative presentation of legitimate news. The arguments for Hill, they fought back saying that Life magazine knew about it, they knew they lied, and it was inappropriate. The court ended up determining in a 5-4 decision in favor of Time Inc. They pretty much came down saying that they cannot prove that Time Inc. did it without knowing that the information was false, or they did it reckless, or it was a reckless disregard of the truth. They couldn't prove any of that. It pretty much just shows the power of the libel law. Writers, they can't disregard the truth or lie, but people have to be able to prove it was intentional, and in this case, they couldn't. For someone trying to be a journalist, obviously it's important to know these laws and cases like this to look back on and see how they deal with it. The laws can affect us greatly, so you can prevent being sued, or you just have to know the laws. It's a pretty interesting case, and it's good to know, especially, like I said, for mass communication students and me, who's trying to be a journalist. Pretty obvious reasons. Helps you understand the laws that you have to know and understand, so you don't get in trouble. Thanks.